So you're going to come back. We're going to come back. We're going to come back to immigration. But right now we're talking about allowing gays to serve openly in the military. But you're opposed to that.
I just said, I think it's a matter, it's not, you don't punish people for their attitudes. You punish them if their behavior creates a problem, and it's already covered by the Uniform Code of Military Conduct.
So you wouldn't change, you wouldn't change existing policy?
What?
You wouldn't change existing policy?
I don't think that I would. I think it's already covered by the existing policy that we do have, in fact.
Mayor Giuliani, recently we've learned that several talented, trained linguists, Arabic speakers, Farsi speakers, Urdu speakers, trained by the U.S. government to learn those languages to help us in the war on terrorism, were dismissed from the military because they announced they were gays or lesbians. Is that, in your mind, appropriate?
This is not the time to deal with disruptive issues like this. Back in 1994, we went through this, and it created a tremendous amount of disruption. Colin Powell, I think, was still the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff before he left at the beginning of the Clinton administration. He came to the view that this was a good policy. And I think in time of war, in a time where we're trying to deal with this transition to a new kind of warfare that we have to be fighting, and we haven't gotten all the way there yet. We need a hybrid army. We need to look at nation building as part of what we have to teach our military. I don't think this would be the right time to raise these issues. And I think we should rely on the judgment of our commanders in a situation like this. They know what's disruptive and what's not. And at a time of war, you don't make fundamental changes like this.
Thank you, Mayor. Governor Romney, the mayor referred to the don't ask, don't tell policy, which was implemented during the Clinton administration after Bill Clinton became president. In 1994, you were quoted as saying that you advocated gays being able to serve openly and honestly in our nation's military. The question to you is, do you still feel that way?
No, actually, when I first heard of the don't ask, don't tell policy, I thought it sounded awfully silly and didn't think that would be very effective. And I turned out to be wrong. It's been the policy now in the military for, what, 10, 15 years, and it seems to be working. And I agree with what Mayor Giuliani said, that this is not the time to put in place a major change, a social experiment in the middle of a war going on. I wouldn't change it at this point. We can look at it down the road. But it does seem to me that we have much bigger issues as a nation we ought to be talking about than that policy right now.
Senator McCain, you've been involved in military matters virtually your whole life. What do you say?
We have the best trained, most professional, best equipped, most efficient, most wonderful military in the history of this country, and I'm proud of every one of them. There just aren't enough of them. So I have to rely on our military leadership in whom we place the responsibility to lead these brave young Americans in combat as we speak. So I think it would be a terrific mistake to even reopen the issue. It is working, my friends. The policy is working. And I am convinced that that's the way we can maintain this greatest military. As much as I revere the greatest generation, as much as I love my own generation, this is the very best. Let's not tamper with them.
Is there anyone here who believes gays and lesbians should be allowed to serve openly in the United States military? If you do, speak up now. Scott, go ahead with your question.
Gentlemen, last night we asked Democrats if they were elected, what role would they use former President Clinton? I'm not going to ask you that.
Thank you.
But Governor Thompson, I'd like to know, seeing as how you were a member of President Bush's cabinet as Health and Human Services Secretary, how would you use George W. Bush in your administration?
I certainly would not send him to the United Nations. I believe George W. Bush has tremendous characteristics. He's very honest, he's very straightforward. I would put him out on a lecture series talking to the youth of America about honesty, integrity, perseverance, passion, and serving the public. George W. Bush believes very much in public service, as does his father, as does his brothers, as does his mother. I think he could be a wonderful spokesperson of making sure that young people realize that public service is a very noble cause and something that young people should aspire to. Like all the young people here on this campus should also have the opportunity to serve in public life.
Senator Brownback, same question to you. If you're elected president, what would you ask your predecessor to do?
Well, I would talk with him about it first, and I would ask him about it. I think he would probably take a position the way his dad did, saying, you know, I think you need to have your time in the limelight. And I'll be willing to help out if you have a tragedy overseas. His father's been excellent. The tsunami that hit Sri Lanka and other places and helping fundraising has been a wonderful ambassador in those sorts of situations. And frankly, I think that's the right role for an ex-president. And I really think in many respects, President Clinton has not assumed the right role of an ex-president, where he's injected himself a lot more on policy issues that haven't been appropriate, and he really should defer more to the person that's in the job. There's one person that's president at a time. And that's the way it should be.
Congressman Tancredo, I see you anxious to weigh in.
Thank you. Some time ago, 2003 I think it was, that I got a call from Karl Rove, who told me that because of my criticism of the president, I should never darken the doorstep of the White House. I have been so disappointed in the president in so many ways since his, actually for the last several years, not just the immigration issue, but several other things, including the No Child Left Behind and the massive increase in government that we call prescription drug, Medicare prescription drug, that I'm afraid I would have to tell the President of the United States, I mean, as president, I would have to tell George Bush exactly the same thing Karl Rove told me.
Thank you, Congressman. Governor Huckabee.